as you can see, we have a crack out there on Lake Winnebago, but today we're going to be doing two flights for you. One on Merritt Avenue on Lake Winnebago that you are looking at right now, and another flight on the north shore of Lake Poygan. So the northeast boat launch that's over there, it's where the old Duck Inn used to be and where the tiny house is currently located. So without further ado, let's cue up that elevator music and get over there and start on Lake Poygan. If it is less than 4 inches, you are safe to go on the ice if you are a bobcat. 4 inches or more, you can go ice fishing with you and your gear. 5 inches of ice, a grizzly bear can go out there, but be bear aware. 6 inches of ice, a figure skating Bigfoot. 7 inches of ice, an ATV or a snowmobile. At 10 inches of ice, you can take a green SUV or a small car. At 11 inches of ice, you can be a red dinosaur and be on the ice. At 12 inches of ice, you can take a pickup truck or an SUV. Now, let's get on to those drone ice reports. Okay, we're starting over here on Lake Poygan. Now, this is on the north shore of Lake Poygan, over where the Duck Inn used to be. That is on the east side of the lake. I do have links to where these locations are on Google Maps if you go to the show notes. So this is the north shore of Lake Poygan from what I can see from the drone. Now remember, I didn't go out on the ice. This is only what I can see from the drone. Things look pretty darn good on this side. There were some people getting out, lots of tracks, and things look pretty decent. We're going to revisit this area here in just a sec so I can show you guys where to park and where the access is at. Now we're starting to face towards the east right now. So this is looking east. Winneconne would be off in the distance where you just saw that blue circle. That's open water. So if you're going to hook towards the east, be very cautious going that direction. Now that is the south shore of Lake Poygan off in the distance where I normally have been flying in. And we're starting to look to the west right now. So overall, from what I can see, this area of the lakes looks like it's set up very, very good. Now we dropped elevation from about 375 feet down to 150. And as normal, we're following all the required FAA rules when we're doing these flights. So keep in mind, I have to follow those in order to get these in and do them legally. This is the North Shore again. We're starting to pan over where that Duck Inn used to be. You'll get to see the tiny house in just a little bit, which is always humorous to me. If you own the tiny house, I think it's a gorgeous house. I just have a weird sense of humor. So there goes the tiny house and the actual launch right there. I think it's going to be a bumpy ride because of how the snow kind of set up out there. You can see the shadows in the snow, but I'm not an expert on that stuff. You're going to have to get out there and actually take a look. There's that section of that possible open water just going off the screen to the upper left right now. We're looking at that south shore of Lake Poygan as we're starting to pan to the west right now. These directions are approximate. I do my best to put them on the screen as we're panning around. And again, we're going to look at that north shore of the lake coming into view one more time as we finish up looking at the Duck Inn. We're going to take a look at that area. So here's a few things to point out. That is the tiny house. Again, gorgeous house right there. I just have a goofy sense of humor. That is where the access is. That is the parking area. So to get from the access to the parking area, you're going to have to go down there, drop your gear off, or go right to the parking area, load up, and then drive over to the ice. Those are kind of your options. Just drive back down the road, hook back over there. Okay, so through the magic of editing, we are now at Merritt Avenue. Now, this is kind of on the north side of the river in the city of Oshkosh. We're looking approximately east right now. That is the east shore, that off in the distance out there that you see. Once you get past the main crack that is out there, conditions actually looked pretty good. A little less bumpy, or a little more bumpy looking than on Winnebago. This guy had darn near panned right with him as he was cruising in. So obviously, people are taking four-wheelers out there. Again, I did not go out on the ice. This is only what I see from the drone. Now, if you watch that guy on the four-wheeler as he's coming in towards Merritt Avenue right now, he's going to slow down before he hits this bridge. If you're utilizing those bridges that were put out by the Otter Street Club, just please slow down when you go over those. That was Merritt Street, which was that green streak that you just saw I put up there. And that's going to be Miller's Bay off in the distance. There were a few people out there fishing on, in Miller's Bay. So that's another option for you. I think the panfish are hitting in there, but I didn't go out there. That's just what I've been told. Now that's Garlic Island off to the north out there. Now we dropped altitude again. I can't fly as high in this area to begin with, just due to the airport proximity. So we're down about 100, 150 feet, so you can see what that ice conditions look like a little closer, down to the deck down there. Sorry, down by the water. If you're not a subscriber, I really would appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. Doesn't cost you anything. You just mash that subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications when I put these out, just hit that bell. It seems like a good way to do that, and get information out to you guys quickly. So as we're panning around, again, this is that west shore coming into view. That is actually know the name of that white building. If you know the name of that white building, please put it in the show notes. That's the water treatment plant off to the left up there. And again, that's Merritt Avenue, kind of the center of where all those cars were. And we're just continuing our pan. There is that giant crack that usually develops right off Merritt Avenue here, and it's back again. So we're just finishing up looking north. We're going to take a look here now at the actual crack. All right, let's look at a Wisconsin Old Fashioned. Up at the top, there is an ice cube. Ice cubes float to the top of your Old Fashioned. They do the same thing when chunks of ice crack off near a crack line. So when you're approaching a crack line, you have to be very cautious of this, because if you stand on one of the outside edges of one of these cracks, it could flip or tip. So if you look at that, that is an actual three-pronged crack that formed basically that ice cube in the old-fashioned glass. Be very, very cautious when you approach crack lines. As you can see, they're right there. As we fly over to the left farther, you could see more of them. I want to see everybody stay on the right side of the ice out there. Let's take a gentle flight listening to the Drunken Sailor, an instrumental version over here on Lake Poygan. Thanks for watching, everybody. Enjoy your time in the outdoors.